Very much for joining us today at this press conference of the UN Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine. The members of the Commission are here today to share preliminary observations on their week-long visit to Ukraine. Our press conference is in a hybrid format. In addition to the journalists present here, there are reporters joining us online, so we will take questions from both groups. Interpretation is available for participants in the room, but journalists attending online will have English only. So now I will turn to Chair Erik Møse for opening remarks, and Commissioners Pablo de Greiff and Vrinda will also make their contributions. And now, Mr. Chair, over to you.
On behalf of the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine, we want to welcome you to this press conference. The Commission has now visited Ukraine more than 10 times. This visit is the first time that the three commissioners are in the country during the Commission's second mandate, which started in March 2023. Our investigators have already been here several times during the second mandate. First, we visited Uman in the Cherkasy region and then traveled to Kyiv. We have met several interlocutors, including the Minister of Culture and Information Policy, the Ministry of Defense, the Ombudsman for Human Rights, the Office for the Prosecutor General, and the Security Service of Ukraine. During the Commission's first mandate, we provided two written reports, one to the General Assembly in October 2022, and one to the Human Rights Council in March this year. Furthermore, last week, we published an extensive conference room paper. It is based on the March report and contains a detailed account of the basis for the findings of the Commission. The conference room paper presents a select number of cases and describes patterns of a wide range of violation by the Russian armed forces. The violations include willful killings, unlawful confinement, torture, rape and other sexual violence, unlawful transfer, and deportation of protected persons and children. Many of these violations qualify as war crimes, and some of them may, if confirmed by further evidence, amount to crimes against humanity, such as the use of torture and attacks on the civilian infrastructure. The paper also contains extensive discussions of criminal and non-judicial accountability measures, as well as the need for coordination. We take the opportunity to stress the importance for the Russian authorities to ensure that all perpetrators are held accountable. We also remind the Ukrainian authorities to complete investigations of the few cases where the Commission has found violations by the Ukrainian armed forces.
Good morning. As mentioned in Uman, the Commission visited a multi-story residential block of apartments, which was hit during an attack in April 2023, where 24 persons, mainly women and children, were killed. We met with residents who shared with us their grief, personal loss, and their ongoing difficulties in securing alternative housing. We also met with the municipal authorities, who are now responsible for providing assistance to the victims in terms of compensation for loss of family members, housing, and other benefits. The Commission recognizes that the Ukrainian legal system faces immense challenges to provide accountability and justice to the victims of conflict-related crimes in the sphere of investigation, prosecution, and adjudication. Our meetings with the NGOs also provided us valuable insights into efforts by the state to respond to these formidable challenges relating to investigating and prosecuting conflict-related crimes, including sexual violence, as well as ensuring comprehensive redress for the victims and survivors.
The Commission has always argued that it would work on the basis of a wide notion of accountability, including judicial and non-judicial measures. It has therefore, for example, followed closely discussions about the establishment of reparations programs. During the visit, we had discussions with different stakeholders about the various initiatives emerging on this topic. The establishment of a comprehensive reparations program is a long-term process which should be distinguished from, but also coordinated with, national reconstruction programs, property restitution and repair programs, and victims programs. A comprehensive program should also be designed in close consultation with the victims. In the past, we have insisted on the urgency of providing mental health and psychosocial support to the victims, and the Commission is gratified to find that there is greater awareness of the importance of doing so, although the actual delivery continues to be a challenge. The Commission has also insisted on the importance of improved coordination between different services the government is already providing, but in a disaggregated way, which imposes on victims some hurdles to access. We take the opportunity to reiterate this point. The Commission will submit written reports of its activities to the General Assembly in October 2023 and to the Human Rights Council in Geneva in March of 2024. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Commissioners. The press statement will be available later on the Commission's website in Russian, English, and Ukrainian. Now the Commissioners will take your questions. Please introduce yourself and the media organization you represent. We'll start with the journalists here in the room. Does anyone want to go ahead? The lady at the back, please, the first one. At the far right.
Hello, Valeria Pashko, Espresso TV channel. You mentioned about the necessity to investigate the violation by the Ukrainian army. Could you please clarify what does it mean? Because it surprised, actually, it was surprised for me as a Ukrainian journalist. Thank you.
This is a reflection of our findings in previous reports. You will recall that we found a wide range of violations concerning the Russian armed forces. But being an independent and impartial commission, where it doesn't matter who the perpetrators are, but whether violations take place, we have to look at all parties in the conflict, so both parties in the conflict. For that reason, we have also investigated broadly, and we have not found many, only a few violations by the Ukrainian armed forces. We are talking about some discriminate attacks, and also in particular 2 incidents where there appeared to have been shooting and ill treatment of prisoners of war. This material comes from inter alia video clips, which authenticity we have confirmed.
Good morning. My name is Katerina Farbar. My question is about recommendations on accountability measures. So I wanted to ask you if the Commission is ready to give or has already given recommendations on the form of institution that has to be established to hold Russia accountable for the war crimes and crimes against humanity. In particular, do you have any recommendations on maybe ad hoc specialized tribunal? Thank you.
This conference room paper, which I just mentioned, and which is an extensive document amounting to about 170 pages, contains one chapter on accountability issues. And there we describe all the various initiatives taken at the national and international level to ensure accountability. And as regards the international level, we mentioned the various possibilities there, including, of course, the ICC, which is already in existence and active. But then there are these plans about the tribunal concerning aggression, the crime of aggression. Here we give an overview of the discussion until today. As you know, the discussion has been going on for over a year, and it's not yet clarified. We mention some of the main factors that we think should be taken into account. A very important issue is to ensure that such a tribunal, if established, must have the necessary legitimacy. And this is both with respect to its composition, and with respect to its functioning. And it's also important if there is general agreement with respect to establishing such a tribunal.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Irena Sisak. I'm a journalist from Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. My question is for Erik Møse. In March, you stated that the Commission didn't find any signs of genocide in Ukraine. Has your opinion changed from that time? Maybe you have new proofs or disproofs, and what are your conclusions based on? Thank you.
It is correct that when asked a question during the last press conference on behalf of the entire Commission, I conveyed to those present that that was our view at that stage. At the present stage, we have still not concluded that there is a genocide in Rwanda. Let me say that we are perfectly aware of the concerns and allegations concerning that crime. We are therefore investigating this step by step. As of now, we do not have sufficient available evidence to meet the legal qualifications in the Genocide Convention. You will recall that it is a matter of intent, and it's also of the perpetrators, and there must also be a necessity to destroy a certain group. And such destruction must be physical or biological according to the convention. Now, these are strict conditions, and this is confirmed by case law. This said, we will of course continue our investigations. As mentioned previously, we have noted, for instance, that there have been certain statements in Russian media which could perhaps be relevant to the issue of incitement to genocide. This is one line we are following, and we will look at this. But so far there are no conclusions. We will just say that we are continuing our investigations, and there may also be other issues that we will pursue. But let me say, this issue should not be considered in isolation from our other findings. As you will know, we have found a large number of war crimes. That's a serious crime. We have found that, at least with respect to two topics, namely torture and attacks in connection with the waves against Ukraine since October 2022. On these two matters, the issue is whether it should be considered as crimes against humanity. That is an offense which is even stricter in order to apply. And we have indicated that there are indications that this may amount to crimes against humanity. So I think it's useful to see this in context, and then the Commission will continue its work.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that in his response, Chair mentioned Rwanda. It should have been Ukraine, of course.
Суспільна влада Призова, скажіть, будь ласка, чи відомо вам про затримання цивільних громадян на окупованих?
So, do you know about the detention of the civil people in the occupied territories? Have you noted or accounted for some cases, and whether or not the representatives of international organs should also respond to such cases in case these cases are acknowledged? Thank you. Do you know about the unlawful seizure, arrest, and detention of the civil people in the occupied territories? And do such cases are qualified as war crimes? And whether or not the international organs should react to such cases? And what should be their response in such cases?
Both the reports to the Human Rights Council and to the General Assembly, we talk about unlawful confinement. And we talk about this extensively, talking about it not just as a violation of international humanitarian law, but when it happens in conditions that can be qualified as inhumane, as many of the cases that we have investigated merited. We argued that these are also war crimes. And because the mandate asks us to give recommendations about accountability, and we have interpreted this broadly, we reiterate that those responsible for the unlawful, inhumane confinement should be brought to justice, and that the victims should also receive the services that they deserve. So this is certainly a topic that we have paid attention to. Now, as regards cases in the temporarily occupied territories, we unfortunately have had no access, but we have been able to interview victims that were present and that were the subject of such confinement, and therefore we have information about the situations that you are talking about, and we mentioned them in the report.
Thank you very much. So maybe one more from the room.
Good morning, Igor Berlian, Armenian Forum. I have a question about the deportation of Ukrainian children by Russia, and what is your position regarding it? And the UN plays a crucial role in establishing special tribunal, and in March of this year, it was arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court to Vladimir Putin and Lvova Belova. And what is the position about this war crime done by Russia? Thank you.
The issue of deportation of children is, of course, a matter that requires great attention and of which everyone is aware. There have been several mechanisms investigating this issue. As regards us, we have, as mentioned in our reports, first not been able to assess exactly the number of such deportations because figures vary greatly, and it's extremely difficult to verify the figures. But it is clear that there has been a considerable number of such deportations. Now, the situations falling under this topic covers children in different situations. Some are separated from their parents in connection with the control. Some have lost contact with the parents, for instance, in connection with the detention of the parents. Some children are in institutions and have been transferred from institutions, and some have been permitted by their parents to go to vacation camps in Crimea. These situations are different, and there is a need then to go into each of the situations and then to follow the destiny of the children. We have concluded clearly that what has happened is a breach of international law in various respects, and we are defining this further specifically in our report, both in the March report and in the CRP report.
Thank you, Chair. I think now I will, I will give opportunity to journalists online, and we come back to you if you don't mind. We will see whether there will be anyone online who would like to pose a question. So I don't see any questions online, so please go ahead.
Володимир Сонюк, political agency. Invading Ukraine, Russia actually behaved itself not like a state, but like a terrorist organization, like Al-Qaeda, like Islamic State. Why Russia is still a member of the United Organization of United Nations? Don't you feel pressure from Russia's officials in your work?
So regarding good. Regarding the latter part of your question concerning whether we feel pressure, the answer is definitely no. We have no pressure from the Russian Federation, in part because the Russian Federation has been totally unresponsive to our efforts to establish meaningful communication with its authorities. So there has been no contact, positive or negative, and therefore we cannot say that we have felt any pressure about it. Concerning your first question, it is not really the role of the Commission to pronounce itself about structural issues concerning the organization as a whole, let alone its Security Council. The behavior of the Russian Federation forces in this conflict is certainly part of our mandate, and about that we have been very explicit in our report.
Thank you. We have one question from online from Meyer of Peace Source, and the question is, what are recommendations to end the human rights violations? Do you have a special section in the report about this?
So yes, thank you very much for the question, and we certainly do. Particularly in the conference room paper, which is more extensive and which allows us the room to develop the recommendations. We have a series of recommendations for different stakeholders: the Russian Federation, the Ukrainian government, the international community, etc. And we also have recommendations to be implemented in different time frames, in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. It will take too long to go through the whole set of recommendations, but just let me say that being faithful to the mandate that we received from the Council, we make recommendations on criminal accountability, how to bring to justice perpetrators of the violations that we have found. But we have also adopted a broad notion of accountability that takes into account the victims' rights and needs, and therefore we also make recommendations about reparations for victims, about truth-telling, and to some extent about guarantees of non-recurrence, measures to avoid the repetition of the violations. And this is part of the content of the report. So we certainly do this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions in the room? Yes, please.
Can abduction of children, Valeria Pashko, Prostitution. So can abduction of children be considered as a war of genocide? Because there in Russia, these children are influenced by Russian propaganda and are forced to forget their origins. Why can the UN in no way influence a member of Security Council? Thank you.
As I said in connection with the first question on genocide, we are pursuing several avenues in our investigations. One of them was incitement. Another topic which is to be considered is the one you are mentioning now. In order to find that that there is such a genocidal act with respect to transfer of children or deportation of children, you would have to know exactly what is happening further on in the Russian Federation. As my colleagues have pointed out, we have limited access to this, and the information we are receiving is not always the same. We receive some information from persons who have been able to reach, from Ukrainian parents or grandmothers or grandfathers who have been able to go either into the occupied territories or even into Russia to retrieve their children or grandchildren, and that gives an indication. But the situation varies a lot according to each transfer, and we will then simply pursue these investigations and see whether, as a whole, you can see that there is an intent to destroy a group, and these are the strict qualifications under the Genocide Convention. But as of now, we have no such conclusion. Our work continues.
If I may add something, because of course you are raising a very important question. Transfer of children is one of the enumerated acts under the Genocide Convention as constitutive of genocide. It is only one, and of course it merits the attention, and this is one of the many reasons why we are pursuing this line. So there is absolutely no question that this constitutes an important motivation for following the investigation about genocide. But as the chair said, there are other missing elements. This is a process. We continue with the process of investigation, and at some point we will reach a determination.
Thank you. Any more questions in the room or online? I don't see. Yes, please.
Igor Berlyan, Army Inform. Did you consider the crimes against environment in Ukraine? Because at the beginning of June, Russia destroyed Kakhovka Dam, and it's really a part of ecocide, of destroying Ukrainian nature and environment, and what is the position regarding another eco-crime of Russia against Ukraine? Thank you.
Thank you. The Commission is investigating into the various facets of the destruction of the dam and its impact on life in Ukraine. The crime of ecocide, as we understand, is codified as an offense in the Ukrainian criminal code. So that would be a matter that would be taken up within the domestic legal system. The Commission is looking and examining, as per its mandate, more as to what are the crimes being committed under international human rights law and international humanitarian law. So while we are examining the impact and the destruction of the dam, the specific crime relating to ecocide would fall within the domain of the Ukrainian domestic legal system.
Anyone else here in the room or online? I don't see any raised hands, so we will be wrapping up now. I just want to draw your attention to the Commission's forthcoming oral update to the Human Rights Council in Geneva on September 25th, and the report to the General Assembly that will be submitted in October. Thank you very much for your participation.